Greetings, everyone. All right, I'm back. Jesus has helped me create a schedule of doing the testimony videos um, because it is hard to talk about some things as it brings back memories. But Jesus would like me to keep doing it, and so I would like to keep doing it. And Jesus helped me by giving me some schedules, some timings of doing them. So I'm going to do the next one. Jesus also gave me some tips of how to get through it. The humorous elements actually help me because it helps me to not go into the certain other elements. Now, I don't think Jesus would describe humor as a defense mechanism. I don't know. I haven't asked him, but maybe that's kind of what it is. I should keep going with the testimony now. Okay, so what happened was, I sold a lot of drugs from the age 15 to 17. And externally, it actually worked out pretty well because, look, I was smart and we were smart and we did it together. And my parents were in their own world. I was also jacked up on amphetamines because my parents, they were happy about that drug use because I was getting really good grades in school. And you might ask yourself, well, how come I didn't end up in the hospital at all during this time or have any adverse drug reactions? I mean, I had bad trips, crazy stuff happen. But during those years, I was never taken to the hospital for anything other than the suicide stuff. And although technically I overdosed on drugs, guys, an overdose is just any time you take more than you intend to. Oh, that happened all the time. But I never had a heart attack or got taken to the hospital or anything. Well, because I studied pharmacology and I knew what contraindications were. That's basically, I knew what drugs you could mix. I knew the limits. Because I researched it myself, and even at parties and stuff, they would always come ask me about it, and I would tell them, don't mix this and this. Now, dude, a couple times people didn't follow my advice and crazy stuff happened, but that wasn't my fault. I would always tell people about the contraindications. I would tell them what they were taking. They would use street names. I would say, you know that you're actually taking this. You know, guys, you should have seen the first time someone said, I know what ecstasy is. And I said, really? Do you know what 3,4-methylene dioxymethylamphetamine is? And they were like, thought it was crazy. I'm like, that's what ecstasy actually is. Anyway, I would trip out with chemistry knowledge and stuff. And once I started carrying the blades, it gave me an additional feeling of security because I knew, well, it's a testimony video. I also studied about how to use blades and where certain arteries were and stuff. And I didn't kill anyone, but knowing that I could, and actually training with the blades in my yard on trees and stuff, well, I'm not trying to say any of this was good. I'm just saying that, I didn't have a father. I had a biological father, but in terms of someone who would really pay close attention to me and care about this stuff, I didn't have that. I didn't have Jesus. And so I was on my own in the world. The world was a hard, hard place for me to be in. So I used my mind. I used what I had. And I survived. And so yeah, we sold the drugs to everyone in high school. People in high school thought it was great. People were tripping out left and right. People would, have fun is how I would describe it. And the school started getting wild, dude. Ours was a pretty boring high school, but once we started pumping it full of those psychedelics, dude, people were tripping out. People were having wild experiences. They'd come back the next day and be like, yo, I saw this and that. And, and to be honest, it was a lot of fun at the time. That's how I perceived it. Not all the suicide and the pain and stuff in my own personal life and in my family, but at school we were going wild. The school was dumb, dude. I'm just gonna have to tell the truth. They didn't even realize what was going on, and it was easy to. I told you guys already what we did about putting in the misinformation in the system. So the police had no idea what was going on. Police weren't the brightest. It was easy to stay ahead of them. And in the school, we would just do it the usual way. We did the old handshake, when we had to do stuff. Hey, what's up, my man? How's it? Oh, it's been transferred. We knew all the tricks, which it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard to learn. We were making money, and my plan was that once I had 10,000 saved up in cash, we were going to jump in one of our friends' cars and cruise out to California, so I would never have to see my parents again. And out there, I figured I'd probably just die or get arrested. But the way I saw it was, at least my life could go out with a blaze of glory. That was my idea of dying happily. I never worried about hell or the afterlife. All I knew is that this life was bad enough. And so that was my plan. Of course, it never came to fruition. My where was I in the story? So yeah, we sold the drugs for like 2 years. Everybody tripped out, had like wild times and stuff. And, I think deep within, a lot of us were suffering, and it pretty much all went back to bad relationships with our families. If I look back at the crew, we were all doing it. We all had messed up relationships with their families. I don't feel it's appropriate here to go into stuff that happened with other dudes and their families, but let's just say it was all brutal. It was all brutal. We all suffered in different ways because of I'm just gonna say it, because of our parents in different ways. Hey, it is what it is. I love my parents, but there you go. So anyway, the worst thing you can suffer from your family is like abandonment. It's like when it goes cold, and that's what it was like from when I was a little kid. But the topic of this video is not that. Topic of this video is Jesus wanted me to just keep going with the story. And so guys, it may not always be sequential, or I may forget parts and move on, but you guys are gonna have to just watch all the testimony videos to see the whole puzzle pieces, So anyway, so yeah, a couple years went on, dude. We crazy stuff happened. I'm not in so much of a humorous mood at the moment, so there's funny stories about it that I might tell later, but not right now. So anyway, it was weird. It was like my parents were like so oblivious. It was like they knew I was doing drugs, but they never even told me not to do drugs. They kind of just looked the other way. And when I would get really suicidal, talk about suicide, they thought that was a problem, but in the sense that they just didn't want me to talk about it. And then they had me sent to the cracker house a couple times, had the police come and take me and stuff me in this place called the Cracker House. That was just the state center for kids who were talking about suicide. But then the second time they stuffed me there and they held me there, they actually had like a legal counsel there, which, guys, a legal counsel means like a person who's like a lawyer. Okay. So I talked to the lawyer when I was in there because that place was brutal and they were just horrible in that place. I went and talked to the lawyer, explained him my situation, and I explained to him that I wanted to file. Basically, we talked. And he said, well, technically it's possible to file to contest your detainment here. But he said it almost never works. And I said, can I do it anyway? And he said, well, it's your legal right. You can do that. So myself and the legal counsel, I don't remember the guy's name, we filed that motion. And it came before a judge the next day. And it turned out they had to prove that you were a threat to yourself or others. And I forget the exact details of how it went. But basically, we contested it, and the judge gave it to us. The judge was like, there's not enough evidence to prove that he's harming anyone else. And just because I had talked about suicide and stuff like that, it wasn't enough to hold me beyond the initial 1 or 2 day period. So I was released. Everybody was amazed. My parents were not happy about it. You should have seen the look on their faces when the judge agreed, the lawyer, or technically, I don't remember if he was technically a lawyer. He was the legal counsel. When we won, the judge was like, there's not enough here to hold him there. And it was amazing. My parents were not happy about that. And so I came back home to the house, and that was when they called in the big guns, the escorts. That night I went to sleep peacefully in my own house till I got woken up, put in chains, and sent away to a place where they did stuff to me that I'll never forget. I don't want to cry too much as I make the video. But anyway, I'm not going to be able to talk a lot about more of what happened in that place, but let me just say that it's just scratching the surface, the stuff I already said. They knew how to hurt people real good, and they hurt us. They hurt me. And yeah, I've thought about murdering them a lot of times for what they did, but I haven't done it. So there you go. But what I did realize was that I never would have been taken out of my house if I had had a knife or a gun the night when the 2 escorts came, because then I could have said, yeah, you try to put your hands on me, you're going to die. Or with a blade, I could have said, hey, put the chains on me. And, let's just say disrupted the functioning of their carotid or jugular arteries or their femoral arteries, or I'm not going to list where all the arteries are. But let's just say the level that I had known of weapons and violence before I went away to that place, when I came back, dude, I was training. I became obsessed with guns. I learned about all the different types of carry, condition 1, condition 0. I did training so that I could wake up out of a dead sleep, take the gun, sweep the room. Oh, man. Because what I knew was I could never sleep in my parents' house again without being ready to kill not just escorts, but an entire SWAT team if they came. Because I didn't care if I died, dude. I wanted to die. God was fish hooking me out of committing suicide. Thank you, God. I appreciate that. Obviously, that was part of God's plan because God didn't want me dead. But what I realized was, and I'm not advising anyone to do this. I'm not saying you should do this. I'm just telling you how I thought. And to be honest, it worked. I thought, if anyone comes and tries to take me alive again, I will. And I made a promise to myself when I got out of that place. I will never be taken alive again. Because if you haven't experienced torture, if you haven't experienced a team of people who are just utterly sadistic, laughing at you, having people raped around you, threatening you with it next, seeing their faces. I didn't visually watch the rapes, but we all knew about it because they made us know about it. It was part of their threatening power. And the rapes were just the surface, dude. They did all kinds of stuff to humiliate us, to break us down. The fact that they would just make us do push-ups until we collapsed in the heat, that was nothing. If that's all it was, yeah, I got pretty jacked after there. That was nothing. The worst stuff was them just humiliating you, pulling out all of your fears and shame and just mocking you. And the people in there were just so evil, dude. It was like they just got off on it. Okay, we're not going to talk more about it now. But so anyway, when I got back from that place, I made a promise to myself, I'll never be taken alive again. I'm like, they can kill me, that I will never go alive again. And what I knew the weakness was of the people who take you, who kidnap you, is they don't want to die. And so I knew between guns and knives, when those people are coming in to kidnap me, oh, I got an AK with an extended magazine. I knew I would sleep with it, round in the chamber. I went through different phases where I would go from condition 1 to condition 0, depending on how bad the PTSD was. But dude, I could wake out of a dead sleep, have the AK in my hand, sweep through the range where people would come in the house. And I didn't do mag dumps inside the house, clearly, but I would train doing them off the porch. We had a house with a driveway coming up. And dude, I would literally train to do mag dumps. So if any police cars came up, I would move up, run up to shooting positions, do a whole mag dump, do speed reload changes. The way you change an AK mag, by the way, imagine you're holding the AK like this. Once you fire the last round, you hear the click because AKs are not like AR-15s. You then have the extra mags here. You take the other mag out. You knock the mag out from the AK with the existing mag. See, the little lever on an AK, it's actually designed so if you have a full mag held upside down, you hit the lever like that, it knocks the empty mag out, you rack it in, and then you reach your hand around and chamber it like that or go up like that. Dude, I would practice that stuff constantly. I would run out, I would do like a mag dump, take it out, rack it, put it in, ching, do like another one, go to different positions. It actually helped a lot because I played paintball a lot as a kid. Paintball tactics work in gunfights. Don't let anyone tell you they don't. I'm not going to tell you videos. You can watch a snuff videos of people using them, dude. It's all about shooting and moving. Move in your position. The mag dumps keep the opposing force suppressed because when you're doing a mag dump, bam, 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 they have to hit the ground because they don't want to get killed. So you move as you're shooting. You do the mag dump, and that causes even a SWAT team will hit the ground. Why? Because AK rounds penetrate through the stuff SWAT teams have on them. AK rounds will, especially good ones, will penetrate right through bulletproof vests. And so as you do the mag dump, it causes them to hit the ground. Because if they get caught with those rounds, they're dead, man. So you do the mag dump, that causes them to hit the ground as you move you circle around into another position. Then as you sweep over them again, I'm not going to go up too much into the details of it, but let's just say I knew how to do it, man. And I would have taken out, I was ready for it. You know, let's just say after I started training like that, of course, I would also have an 8-inch dagger on me. So if they do disable you as they come near you, you go down with the dagger. And of course, I had a sidearm as well. Shouts out to Ruger SR9. That's a great handgun, but this isn't about that. Later, I switched to an FN FNS9, also an excellent handgun. So anyway, the point was I had to do this stuff because I didn't want to get taken out of my house again. And my parents learned their lesson about that because, you know, they knew what would happen if they called in people again. I didn't menace my parents. I never pointed a gun at my parents a single time in my life. But my rule with my parents was do not use violence against me. And, you know, other than that time my mom tried to kill me with the knife, you know, they didn't really use violence against me again because they basically realized, you know, that wasn't a good idea. And I just wanted to be left alone in my room at times. But my mom we won't go into that, but we won't go into that now. But the point was, I never laid a finger on my parents. I just wanted them to leave me alone when I was in the house. But of course, they would threaten to call people, call the police, have me taken again. And so I had to make it clear to them, I can literally kill an entire SWAT team and I will just go down shooting with the SWAT team. Once they realized that I wasn't clowning around, they wouldn't call in the SWAT team. They wouldn't call in. They would just let me go, you know, off into my room or whatever. So basically it worked though. My parents never tried to have people come take me away again. And I would have been ready for it, dude. I was ready to die every single day. I was like, if today's the day the SWAT comes in or anyone else and they want to put me in handcuffs, I mean, I had the whole scenario planned out. I will use every round in the magazine. I will charge up on them aggressively. Me and Ajax used to play paintball a lot, so I knew all the tactics about moving out of position, about distraction area. I won't go into it all now, but believe me, my life was learning about this stuff. My life was training it. You can't just read about it. You got to do drills. That's why I would actually do drills of putting down the pressive fire, get my heart rate up so your hands are shaking. And man, I was ready to go. I was ready to die. Yeah, I was ready to kill. That's the main thing. because you really want to see some, just mess with someone with severe PTSD who's ready to kill. Let's just say I wasn't going to go out Jesus style, as in just taking it willingly. Oh no, I was going to go out, killing people. Not because I wanted to. I didn't want to go out killing people. I just want people not to put me in chains again like a kid and torture me. But I knew the police, they didn't care. So I made it very clear. If any police come to our house, if any police come from anywhere, I had made a promise to myself. I didn't believe in God at that time, but I made a promise to myself that I will never be kidnapped again. I will never go down alive. And that's why wherever I was, I always had blades on me or a gun. Depending if I felt paranoid, I'd have a round in the chamber, and I could draw that double-sided dagger so fast. If people would even start to surround around me in public, I would start getting paranoid and be like, they're coming, that guy's going to die first. I wouldn't point it out. I'd just be ready for it. People can almost sense it and they'll just back away. When you're really ready to die and kill, even police can feel it. And even police will you know what I mean? I'm not going to go into it, but yeah, even cops can, if you're ready, if you're just looking at that cop, like you look at me again and you're ready to take him out, even cops will kind of just, go along. It's like people can feel that look, and they can, I don't know if they can feel the pain in you, but I'm just like, man, anyone tries to put me in chains again to bring me to some sick rape center, my parents doing anything else like that. My parents tried another time when I was in Spain, and guess what? It didn't work at all, dude. I just backed everybody off. Yeah, because I was ready to do it. My mom went behind my back, tried another thing in Spain to have me taken in chains again, and that's not even the story I'm telling here, but it completely failed. And then when I called her and said, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I basically said something like, you should have known that wasn't going to work. And she was like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, Evan. And it's like, dude, my mom, Miss Military Expert, always thinks that she knows. You know what? When she tried to stab me with that knife, I didn't think this at the time, but if I had to say something about it, I'd be like, she didn't even know what she was doing trying to kill me with a knife like that. She could have gone for arteries. She could have used misdirection. There's a lot of things you can do with a knife to kill somebody. First strike can also take the eyes out. That's easy to do with a knife. Mom didn't know any of that. She just came straight in to put it into me. And of course, it actually would have worked if God hadn't done that thing. It was amazing how you could see in her eyes the confusion, like the knife wouldn't go forward. And she has this look like of shock. Look, guys, Mom's not a bad person, but she has her own issues. And she doesn't have Jesus, and that probably is why she's had so much violence throughout her life. And my dad is the other way around. He's not violent at all, but he'll call in someone else to do the dirty work, and usually on me. In fact, only on me. I don't think he's ever called these people to come in for anyone else. But anyway, so I was trying to finish off the part about. So then, after I went to the treatment center for a while, I was actually into AA, funny enough, because, they forced us to in the treatment center. They used the Stockholm Syndrome, the pressure tactics, breaking us down through pain, and then they just made us swear to go to AA all the time. No, they never talked about Jesus. They said, get a higher power in AA, the psychos up in that place. And so I went to AA, and that's a whole other story in my years in AA. But yeah, I stayed tooled up after that, man. And you know what? No one ever messed with me, physically. No one ever did, other than my mom, which, that I could have shot her. In the state of New Hampshire, someone comes at you trying to stab you with a knife. I could have legally shot her dead with a gun, had the interview with the police and explain the scenario. And that's 100% legal to do in the state of New Hampshire. If anyone threatens your life, comes at you with a knife, and by the way, all my guns were 100% legal because I was not a convicted felon. So, I never even got convicted of a crime until I got a misdemeanor charge years later, but that's a minor thing. I paid a fine. So yeah, when my mom came at me with the knife, I didn't want to do it. I didn't try to do it. But if I had legally just shot her dead, I could have called the police, done the interview, which they do an interview, and explained the scenario, and they would have found her dead with a knife. And that actually, she committed a crime by trying to stab me with a knife. And if I just shot her dead and said, it doesn't matter the fact that she's my mom, I could have legally. And I told my mom this about the situation. And of course, she didn't believe it, just laughs at me. And it's like, well, it is the law. In the state of New Hampshire, you have the right to use deadly force to stop someone who's trying to stab you with a knife. But I didn't do that. I didn't even so much as smack her. I just went in my room and cried. And that's pretty much the story of my life right there. So, so that is what that is. Anyway, I was trying to keep this on a lighter note, but, it's not necessarily a light thing to talk about for me. So anyway, so then I was in AA for a while, and I tooled up with weapons. I trained with them. I knew all kind of stuff to use. It was my obsession because it was the way I didn't get taken and tortured again, if that makes sense to you. If you don't have PTSD, it probably doesn't make sense to you. But when you have PTSD, I got diagnosed with the severe kind. After about the third diagnosis of it, my parents started to believe that it really existed because they just, they just, we're not even going to go into that, but I'm not going to go into all that stuff now. But yeah, that was what it was. Some funny things happened, like the time I almost shot the mailman. I mean, I didn't almost shoot him, but I was like, identify yourself. And the guy was just like, and I was like, oh, whoa, because I didn't want to kill people. The dude was just delivering a package, but he came up looking like he's in a military uniform. And so I went through it and, nothing bad happened. I was just like, oh, and he kind of understood. Oh, over there. I was just like, oh, I just did it. And, he went on delivering packages and, life went on. And he later came back to the house again. Look, people know there's other like military veterans in the area and stuff. And, I'm not a military veteran, by the way, but believe me when I say I could kill a lot of people if I ever wanted to, because I have those abilities from, what happened. So I probably would have been good in the military, dude. I probably, well, that's another life story. I never wanted to be in the military, dude. I see what it does to people. And by the way, shouts out, any of my subscribers are in the military. Shouts out to you guys. I know you guys are, what it's like. Yeah. Anyway, I was trying to keep this on a lighter note, but it's not an easy thing to do. So then I became, I became a drug dealer. What I found was I wasn't good at making money. Because I never had a hunger for money. My dad would just give me money. It almost became like a blood money thing. He would just give me money. Oops, I accidentally smacked my computer. So he would just give me like blood money essentially, and just here's money, Evan, here's money, Evan, here's money, Evan. He never became more interested in me. He never, but what he knew is he loved his job and he made a lot of money. And so he would just give me money and, sometimes I would use it on drugs. Other times I would be sober. I wouldn't. And, basically my parents were happy with me living in a foreign country and I was happy with it. And, we still had a relationship, but, I think our family never really got over what happened. And of course, I blame myself for many years and they were happy about that. But then after enough psychologist visits, PTSD diagnosis, I finally, what you might call, confronted them and said, what you guys did was wrong. You shouldn't have done that to me when I was 17. And they basically, we're not going to go into their reaction to it, but, they kept giving me money. And they kept giving me money up until recently, till October when I got reborn again in Jesus. And then suddenly everything changed in our family. Anyway, I won't go into that issue now. So anyway, then, I was going to talk about, because weirdly enough, guys, you probably think I'm making this up, but I didn't. I made a list of stuff to talk about. The first thing was mention drugs, and the second thing was mention my life in the streets. I don't mean actually, I've never been homeless, like sleeping on a street, but I mean like when I was a drug dealer, that's what it means, in the streets. So anyway, within the life in the streets, I sucked at making money. Dude, it's hard. When you're like a low-level dealer, you don't make any money. I never made as much money as I did in high school. But I would do it, I think, just because I liked to feel good at something. And what I discovered was, after I had come out of that treatment center, and I combined my previous knowledge and I studied all kinds of fighting tactics, and I was also ready to kill and die. Dude, people just feared me like you wouldn't believe. All kinds of people who thought they were hard and stuff. When it came up to it, dude, it was like people were just terrified of me because I knew how to move it. I knew how to hit the switches, and I would just look people in the eye and usually wouldn't even say anything. Or I'd say something like, you want to do this? And I would just hold them like that. Dude, groups of guys, all kind of people thought they were tough. I would just walk right up and go, what's up, sweetheart? You want to give me a kiss? Get out of here. Or I can't do it now on command, but I would just go up all relaxed. Dude, I didn't even have to have my hands near it, man, because I knew how to get to that stuff quick. I knew how to distractionary things. I don't want to go too much into showing how to do it, but I would just walk up all confident, and just people were bothering me, and I would say something like, hey, you really shouldn't be doing this. They would say like, who are you? And I would just look at them and go, who are you? And then it was just like, dude, you should see whole groups of people would just, look, let's be honest. I was good at that because of pain I had because of what I went. But basically, dude, I stopped stores from getting robbed. Whole crews of people would try to do stuff. Yeah, sometimes I would draw on them and I would just be like, yeah, they got humiliated because they didn't know what it's like when you come up against someone who suffered a lot, who's been under a lot of pain, and people would be doing mischief in different neighborhoods. And I would just be like, it wasn't like I was doing it out of I wasn't trying to save the world or anything. I was just be like, hey, I don't like that they're doing this. And I would just go up and be like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. And they would be like, oh, but we're the so-and-sos. We're this group. And in my mind, I was thinking like, oh, is this the Jets and the Sharks? Is this 1950s? Sometimes I would say stuff like that. And they'd all try to crew up and stuff. And they'd be like, we're going to fight you. And I'd be like, oh, really? I'm fighting with this. What are you fighting with? And they would be like, you're not really going to use that. And I'd be like, take 2 steps closer. And I was really ready to kill them. And they could feel that. At that point, they would just solve the problem. And then I would say something like, hey, sunshine, don't forget to bleepity bleepity bleep. And then they would never mess with me again. And then the neighborhood wouldn't have problems with that particular group till another one of those groups came. And it was just like, they were what we call candy sellers. Let's just put it in that way. Candy bottoms. All right. Yeah, y'all know what that means. If you don't, don't even look it up on the internet. Urban Dictionary, but don't, but it's a different phrase. All right, guys. So anyway, that was what that was. And that's why it amazed me to this day. My mom thinks I'm like weak and I can't handle stuff. And it's just like, she tried to kill me with a knife. Like she knows about these things, but she still tells me like about how to properly use the military tactics and just tells me ridiculous stuff, dude. Just tells me things that are just like, and I'm just like, okay, mom, I always try to listen, be polite, be like, that's nice, mom. You've read another novel about James Bond. And now she's like lecturing me on how to, drop in special forces and stuff. And then she says some ridiculous thing about like how I can't even remember the examples, but stuff like how you could use a sword on a battlefield to take out a machine gunner or something. I'm just like, mom, that wouldn't work. She gets like angry and starts being like, oh, I know about that. And I'm just like, mom, swords are very effective close range weapons for defending like a house or something where people come around, but taking out a machine gunner in Afghanistan with a sword. Shouts out to my subscribers if you've ever been in that situation. Yeah, what a shock. It doesn't work because of, projectile weapons, but, my mom's got some funny ideas. Anyway, so that's not about that. This is about something different, but, okay, guys. Okay. Guys, the next thing on my list is blessings, things that were positive in my life, things that were awesome, blessings that I felt. So I don't want to get this too much onto a negative track about, things that weren't positive in my life because, then I wouldn't be following the list. So, let me think. Is there anything else with life in the streets? Basically, you got to defend yourself, dude. When you don't have Jesus, nowadays, I don't carry anything, dude. I mean, I could still defend myself without anything. But the reason I don't even worry about that is because nowadays, dude, I got Jesus. What do you think that means? If you guys don't know, it means I know the Holy Spirit's with me, Jesus with me. What's crazy is people actually treat me even better than they used to. Before, people would have fear of me. And I was a nice guy. I wasn't going around menacing people. I was like nice. But if it went to that dark way, people would get a little surprised because they would think I looked all nice and they would start to do something. And I would make a little comment like, oh, do that one more time. And, and then they would be like, you're faking it. And I would just be like one step forward. And anyway, and people... But I was nice during the day. And, at night I was nice. If people were being cool, I didn't care. But when people tried to start stuff, then they would learn that nice on the outside, inside is a wounded man in pain who has spent thousands of hours training with weapons, knows all the tactics, and has gone through all the scenarios multiple times. And yeah. But anyway, then after I got reborn, the Holy Spirit comes into me. And now, dude, I go out in the streets now. People are even more like, I don't know how to describe it because the Holy Spirit is a spirit of authority. And when it comes into you, it's strange because at first when I got reborn and I stopped carrying my tools, it felt weird. But very quickly I realized God will actually protect me even without my tools. And there was a couple moments when stuff started to get provoked and I was like, oh, how's this going to go? Dude, I wouldn't even go into it. But it really didn't go well for the other people. And I didn't even have to touch them. Just crazy stuff happened that was like, wow, I saw the power of God, dude. One time, this big jacked Irish guy tried to start some stuff. Dude, I didn't even touch the guy. And dude, bouncers just smashed him to the ground. He was utterly humiliated. I didn't even touch him. And I was just like, wow, I didn't even have to do anything. It was amazing. I was like, wow, it's almost like God did that one for me. Didn't even have to get dirty. I just smoked my cigarette, walked away. That was how God taught me that, like, when the Holy Spirit's protecting you, you can go anywhere. You don't have to have fear. Obviously I try to be nice everywhere I go. I certainly don't go around, being like, hey, you want to see the Holy Spirit? Just try to punch me. Like, I really don't do that. Like, I don't do that. God would not be happy if I did that, but I don't fear, man, day, night. I don't really go out at night much anymore. In fact, never since no, that's not true. There was a few times I did when I first got reborn, but nowadays I basically just stay home and, But the point of this video was, so I was trying to talk about now I don't even carry anything and I don't even worry about it because Holy Spirit just protects me. And I know no one's going to come kidnap me again because, I even saw the thing with Carmelo, tried to Mossad poison me, tried to have me arrested. Oh, he tried to have me arrested the other day again as well. I haven't even told that story. I saw him again in the street. Guy tried to have me arrested again. It didn't work yet again because that's the power of God, the power of Jesus. So anybody out there, I was going to do something, be like, yo, if you're carrying, you don't have to, Jesus will protect you. But the truth is, if you're carrying, you're following all the laws, it's perfectly fine to carry weapons. I'm not saying anyone should, but in the US of A, we got a little thing called the right to bear arms and defend ourselves. And guess what? They had that in biblical times too. It's not about weapons are good or evil. Hey, I did use weapons to prevent people from getting hurt and bad stuff going down. I just did it. So it's not that weapons are good or evil. I'm not saying anyone should start getting strapped or doing stuff that I did. But if you're already carrying, if you know about that stuff, it's not bad. It's about how you use it in the context. And I never shot anybody. I never stabbed anybody. I never, well, we won't go too much into it, but, the point is, usually just the threat of it is enough. Just right coming up to that edge, people are like, whoa. Sometimes super drunk people will see you with the blade in your hand and think you're not actually going to use it. And that's why sometimes a little demonstration was needed on the nearest object. Hey, want to see how fast I can perforate something? And once they witnessed it, I would turn back around and be like, hey, do you still think I won't use this? Come 3 inches closer and then you'll die. Or I would say something like that, but in a serious way. I'm saying it now in a joking way. And they would usually run away as fast as they could, screaming. And then I would turn back to the whole group and be like, yeah, I told you I'd solve the problem. And then people in the group were glad that I defended the group. Let's just be honest. But now I got God as my defender. And so I don't got to do that stuff. I still have my weapons, but I think of them as my friends. Not all my weapons, but a couple of them. I actually formed an emotional bond with them during all these years because they were the things that protected me from ever getting tortured again. And I would give them little kisses. I would have names for them. And I don't show them as much affection now, but I still love them. And I don't think I should show them on camera because probably God wouldn't like that. But, they were like my friends because, let's just be straight up about it. My own family sent me away to get raped. And in order to defend myself from that happening again, I had to have weapons. And so I bonded with them. I gave them names and I would give them a little kiss. And as I was cleaning them or checking the chamber and stuff, I would, be talking to them because they kept me safe. And I loved them and they loved me. And that's how I perceived it. So drugs were the first real good friend of mine. Weapons were the second. Because drugs prevented me from just spending every moment in a black pit of misery. They gave me, I had wild experiences, but they would give me a feeling of inner warmth. And the weapons showed me that I can sleep safe at night. Because, surprise, surprise, after the whole treatment center experience of the PTSD, it's very hard to sleep in my parents' house. But the weapons showed me, you keep the round in the chamber, you know how to do it. I would sleep like a baby. If something woke me up, I would just sweep the house, flick the light on. Very important to have lights on your guns at night because they might come for you at night as they came for me. So I had a real bright light. I knew how to sweep it around. And then I would go back to sleep with no threats once the area was cleared. And yeah, that's what that was. So I actually get emotional if I talk about the side of my weapons, how I loved them and they loved me. Because my own family wouldn't protect me. My own family had me hurt real bad, but the guns protected me real well. Because I was never taken again into captivity. I still love my weapons. I know they're physical objects and, dude, I was actually asking Jesus if he loves them. And he's saying, no. And then finally I was like, Jesus, is it because they're inanimate objects? He said, yes. So guys, Jesus doesn't love inanimate objects because they're not people. But he loves each and every one of us. Everyone seeing this video, he loves you. He loves me. He loves, I believe that he loves dogs and animals. I haven't actually asked that specific question, but there's been times on the street when I was breaking down and crying, and a little dog would come and jump on my lap, lick me. And I believe that was Jesus sending that dog to cheer me up. Okay, guys, well, that's the most of the video we'll say now. But we'll make more videos soon once I recover from crying after the video. Okay, guys. I'll talk to you soon.